The first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club, but it's our job to talk about fights in real estate, so here we go. The fight between sellers and agents continues as commission discussions heat up. An appraiser has alleged discrimination and builders prepare for pain as they enter the sales ring. Those epic battles plus lumber soars 13% and the Fed's moved has no negative impact on rates and the refi demand is up 8 count. But before the final bell, we're about to finally see a national MLS. Lace up your gloves, jump in the squared circle on This Week in Real Estate. Yeah! What's up, everybody? That was really difficult for me today. One, because you had the word countersues in there, and it totally threw me off. For whatever reason, I couldn't read the word countersues. But thanks, everybody, for joining us. I am Ray. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan. I don't know, Ray, if you've noticed, but I put a lot of alliterations in my writings.
I like it. Yeah.
I like back-to-back C's, back-to-back letters, countersuits, counter 8 count. I put a lot of that in there. But when Ray's busy and doesn't have a lot of time to read it up front, sometimes it gets a little tongue-twisty.
Yeah. I mean, normally we like to kind of pre-record those things, but we're also very busy real estate agents. I even have a meeting like 30 minutes ago. I just got off a client call. So that's kind of our primary thing is real estate agents. The secondary thing that we do is this podcast. We just wanted to create one place for you guys to come and hear all the news and all the information. We have tons of headlines to cover this week. So Dan, before we dive into that, tell people what this show is actually all about.
I'd love to. Now, when Ray and I met here on the interwebs, trolling other Facebook groups with a bunch of realtors in them. And, we would always end up kind of on the same comment or sub-comment thread. We have very similar trolling styles. We like the subtle trolls that maybe you don't realize you were being trolled until 5-6 years later, but we know. We know, and that's all that matters. But at the time, I had an idea for a show called The Bearded Men of Real Estate, because we are, in fact, Bearded Men of Real Estate, and we are now This Week in Real Estate. But when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
Oh, what was that, Dan?
He's never, not once, had flight issues like he had last week.
Oh, my goodness. That was
I don't know if you guys follow him on the Instas, but dude, I've never seen anything like it. I never have.
It was nuts. So first, we didn't broadcast last week because I went to Tom Ferry's Elite Retreat, and it was a good retreat. I was supposed to be there on, was that Tuesday of last week?
Yeah.
And the flight was canceled because of all the storms in Dallas. That's understandable. Things like that happen. They wanted to put me on another flight the next morning really early through Dallas. And I was like, look, that's not going to happen because Dallas is not going to have any changes. And I was right. That would have been canceled. So instead I went through Chicago. No big deal. Chicago knows how to deal with ice. And plus everything was flowing fine out of Chicago.
It's icy year round there.
Right. So my plane literally lands in Chicago and they canceled my Chicago to Vegas flight. So now I have to run around, find a different flight. I found a flight, had to pay for it. So now I'm down talking with the airlines about that whole issue. My bag doesn't show up until a day late. So I had no clothes to wear that evening, the next morning. It was just it was a nightmare. So finally, we have a nice week. I'm staying one extra day, give me a little bit of time. So I stayed one extra day, started to get on the plane, went to the airport, I really like that time to sit down and write and journal and just kind of recap the whole week. And that didn't happen. I boarded the plane. I was then deplaned and had to pick another flight and try to find another flight for me to get back in time. So I wound up going out on the red eye. So all that airplane time I was looking forward to sit down and just process everything turned out to try to get some sleep time. It was so bad. So I finally arrived back in Arkansas on the Sunday morning. It's crazy. No bag still. My bag was supposed to beat me here and it didn't. So I had another day and a half to get my luggage. So that was my flight experience. Now, I know some of you are thinking Louis C.K., his bit about everything's great and no one's happy, because, there's no Wi-Fi in the plane. We go, ugh, no Wi-Fi in the plane, but we're in a chair flying through the air. But that was rough. That was rough. And people are like, oh, I had such a rough flight. It was 15 minutes late. But, back in the day, to make that same journey, we would have started the journey as 30 people and then landed with only 10 because, halfway through, half the crew would die and have diseases. So I understand what I'm saying. In the context of life, it was a small issue.
It's a little first worldly problem, but
yeah, that
was egregious. That was absolutely egregious. That was insane.
Egregious is a good word for it.
Him running through like through the airport. Okay, I'm in Chicago. I don't know where my next flight is.
I did. Yeah, check out the Instagram Razorback, RAYZORBACK. I'll leave that highlight pinned for a little bit, but I've got a highlight on there that just says, it's got the little luggage symbol and then the yikes face. Yeah, that's my return home. So you just feel free to follow along on the return home.
Right, and like maybe it was one way. On the way there, it was rough, but then you had a nice time, and then on the way back, it was easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Nope, they got me going.
It was both
coming.
ways.
Yep.
Yeah, it was both ways. It's a good time. Well, but I digress. Okay, when I met Ray, I obviously noticed he's a beautifully bearded man, but I also noticed that he loves giving value up front to not only his clients, but just to humans in general. So the show is about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Yep. And one of the ways we believe in being more is to know what in the world is going on, which is why we do this little show. So you can have one place for about an hour, hour and a half, one time a week. You hear all the news stories, everything that's going on, the most significant things to you in your industry, and it's all wrapped up. So if you're a real estate investor, if you're interested in real estate, if you're in the industry, this show is for you. So thanks everybody for joining us.
We all do all the work. We scroll and scroll and scroll, and we have our contributor friends that help us out, and they send us our weekly articles, and we do all that so you don't have to. All you have to do is sit here and hang out with us for an hour and
chat it up.
Go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe and like and comment. Do all that stuff for us, please, and we got the rest handled for you every week on Wednesday.
Is the chat working? I don't see the chat that's working. Normally, sometimes it'll give me a little notification. And I don't see, do you see any chat? I don't see, it's not working for me. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's mostly about Matt not being here. Dusty says, hola, bearded men.
So strange. It just tells me,
I can't
hooray, the chat is waiting for a new message.
Yeah, no, they're there.
I see here, I'm going to overlay it. So see that, hey, yes, it's working. We're talking about Matt P. So I can see it when I overlay it, but I can't.
You can't see it on it would be your right. You can't see that?
No, I can't see it on where I normally click to highlight them. So that's how we'll have to do the chat today, is just like that. So sorry about that.
But remember, it won't come. It only comes up.
Oh yeah, that's right. It only comes up when
as they're typing.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, I'll try to figure that out while we're talking about some of these stories. But
but it's a lot of Matt talk. There's Eric Daniels, subtle troll, and DFW willing to charter a private flight with agents in the near future.
Oh yeah, that would be slick.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah,
I love that.
Krista says this was by far more the destination than the journey, whether you like it or not. It was the journey.
That's true.
Olivier now says you should have just get your own private jet. I mean, you have private jet money, right?
Yeah. Who doesn't have private jet money?
I mean, I do. I don't spend it on private jets, but I have that money.
I think most of the people these days that would even have private jet money are probably going to spend it on wood. So close. All right, so lumber.
Wouldn't
you? I know I would.
I would.
Lumber futures soar 13% on Friday as the housing market finally shows some signs of life. Lumber prices soared 13% on Friday. Lumber futures dropped.
I think this is Friday of the week we didn't do the show. A couple of these articles are from the week we didn't show. So as we read through these guys, we tried to keep them current. So we stayed away.
I also tried to keep it in order for us. So it should be.
Just remember that as he reads through. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to
No. We haven't covered lumber prices in a while, though. So the futures jumped to $524 per 1,000 board feet to its highest level since mid-October. That's essentially building commodities up 21% since encouraging housing market data was released earlier this week. It's up 37% year to date. Now, remember, it was down a lot. It had been pummeled throughout 2022, falling 67%, but it was falling 67% to what was normal. It wasn't falling 67% to what lumber producers can't keep up with. It was literally falling 67% and still being higher than it used to be. The average 30-year fixed mortgage peaked at 7% last year, but since dropped under 7, it's closer to 6. Pending home sales unexpectedly jumped, which we covered last week or 2 weeks ago. The modest rebound in the housing market activity has also helped boost home builder sentiment in January. So all of those factors combine to increase lumber futures. So whenever you see lumber futures are increasing, you also tend to believe that maybe additional supply is on the horizon, because those producers believe that, I can't go to the chat. Sorry, guys. Those producers believe, or those investors believe that producers are going to start building again. So,
and that's, to me, it's a good indicator. I like following. I mean, I've never thought I'd ever say this sentence in my life, but I like following wood futures. I mean, it's an exciting thing. You see it because it was so crazy, up to $1,700 per board square foot. And then it went back down to 3 something, which was pre-pandemic levels. Now it's a little more historically average, I guess, in the 500 range, but seeing it up means there's more people wanting to purchase it, which in my opinion would mean that more builders are building. And I don't know if we have a story about it. I think we might have something that touches on it. We might do a rapid fire round that covers it, but we do have one that's next. But builders are seeing positive trends right now and feeling a little better, I believe.
That was a good segue. Builders prep for more pain. Builders prep for more pain, but see progress in the future. The National Association of Home Builders is warning that the new market is in a, quote, housing recession, but says brighter days are on the horizon. And turnaround could come sooner than expected, given recent uplifting economic data. Until then, though, builders are increasingly turning to incentives, including mortgage rate buydowns and in some cases price drops to bring home buyers back to the market. We talked about this one also a couple of weeks ago. We talked about the incentives that they were offering.
Cookies.
But this, the additional cookies to real estate agents, which is commissions, guys. Here's a quote from NAHB Chief Economist Robert Dietz. With interest rates projected to normalize in the second half of 2023 as the Federal Reserve taps the brakes and fight against inflation, the pace of single-family construction will bottom out in the first half of 2023 and begin to improve in the latter part of the year. This forward momentum will lead to a calendar year gain for single-family starts in 2024. So basically, they're anticipating that right now it's going to be bottoming out, but it's going to go up in the near future.
Well, and that's where a lot of there's a couple builders that I work with on a different level at a different angle, but they're seeing time to now because the wood they've kind of gotten through their supply that was more expensive, and now they're buying at a lower level and they're seeing a positive for the future. To me, in my opinion, it's time to be building because buyers are going to need to buy something.
And we're still at an inventory deficit. So inventory did start to go back up just a little bit, and then it went down again. So we're still at an inventory deficit. It says favorable home buying demographics and better interest rate environment will lead to a solid period of home building during the first half of the decade. Single family home building will need to exceed 1.1 million starts per year in order to reduce the deficit that arose because of underbuilding in the prior decade. And we all know why builders were underbuilding is because they were afraid. They just went through a super huge crash, and a lot of them got overextended. And because of that, they were afraid to overextend again or even extend again.
Forget overextending. They don't want to extend.
Yeah, they don't want to extend.
Think about that. 1 million starts per year to get rid of the deficit, not to be in a normal market, not to have too much supply. That's to get rid of the deficit.
Yeah. That's not to have too much. That's to have just enough.
That's to get to enough, which we haven't been historically at quote unquote enough in a long time.
Yeah. And do we have any comments you need to lay out there? I can't see the comments again.
No, just Dusty staying obsessed with the I stuff, like iRobot. She said, I would sounds like a tech startup. She's got she's obsessed with this iRobot thing. I think she's really scared of Chat GPT taking over. I am.
Mr. Tim Reagan says the Clubhouse chat is open. He said, we may have hit a floor on rates until we see Powell's expectations on inflation actually happening. Speaking of rates, they did make a move while we were off last week. They increased interest rates. Wasn't it a quarter point?
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? A quarter point? I mean, doesn't that mean all rates move up a quarter point? No, the Fed mood has actually no negative impact on mortgage rates. The 30-year fixed rate mortgage is nearly a full percentage point lower than its 7.08% peak in mid-November, helping affordability and offering millions of potential home buyers to re-enter the housing market. Federal Reserve voted last week to raise the benchmark rate by another quarter point. Mortgage rates continued to inch downward. The mortgage market likely already priced in the Fed's rate. And we've been talking about that as well. If you are a regular listener, so
they were way ahead of it. I mean, these have all been all the way back to the first one. Was the first hike kind of early mid last year? The first 0.75.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think most people thought it was going to be a half a point.
Yeah, and then it went full 0.75. But all the lenders I was talking to at that time, 8 months ago, whenever that was, they were like, no, we already prepped for this. We're good. It's not going to affect it too much. Then obviously it did. It went up to 7.3, but now it's back down. And I think it hit, I don't know where they're at today. I haven't looked today, but they were in the 5 range, meaning 5.99, but they hit 5s.
Oops, I accidentally opened the help file.
There you go. Regan, Tim says the same thing. We briefly touched a national average of 5.99, but since jobs numbers were released, we're out at 6.45 on national average. And that's on Clubhouse. And then Olivier says, rates are still up or still increasing up north. So where are they at right now up north, Olivier?
If you look at today's rate too, so this was a report, I think on Friday, which was one of the low points. It did actually start to tick up. So if I do 30-year mortgage rates, let me show you this chart so you guys can see it too. I just Googled 30-year mortgage rates. I know it's not exactly accurate, but you can see on there the 30-year fixed is the blue line. It is back up to 6.874. And you can see this real stark, real drastic
That's a pretty
climb.
Pretty good V there.
And that's happened in the past too, where it's gone down and V'd up and then went right back down pretty big. Yeah. So I don't think people think that this is a long-term move upward. I think everyone is pretty well saying that they think it's a short-term move up. So, let's see any other comments on that before we move on. Sorry, it's gonna be a little bit annoying today because I'm gonna have to ask Dan for the comments in the YouTubes and the Facebooks.
I don't see anything on YouTube. Okay. Clubhouse, Olivier says prime rate is at 6.7, so around ours, but fixed 5 years is around 5.2. Variable rate mortgages are really taking a hit. So yeah, they're still a little volatile up that way.
Interesting. And then what is your supply like there, Olivier? I think y'all are still in need of supply, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I wonder, Ray, interesting, if you're ready to hit the button. Oh, we got him? Good.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Olivier.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, the market is really weird where the low entry stuff is moving quite a lot, but when you get into the mid-range market, it's almost dead unless you have the perfect product perfectly priced. So it's really dependent on the product area, but as soon as you move into the middle to higher range, the market is really, really soft. Inventory is coming on. Stuff isn't moving. But if you have, I don't know, a first-time home buyer house here is around $400,000, that'll still move in a week or two. I mean, I put a house on the market Monday. I'm getting an offer today. That's to show you how it is, a $400,000 home. But in the $800,000 home, you might have to wait 2-3 months, which is normal, but we're not used to it.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thanks for giving us an update, Olivia. I've also got it now. Hopefully it didn't do an echo because I've also got it now where we'll show you guys. Make sure it's not sharing the audio on there.
It's echoing.
It is. Thank you. It's hard.
Here, Ray, have a really rough trip to Vegas. Enjoy a couple days, but have a really rough trip and then come back to Alive and figure it all out.
There you go. I got it. I got it fixed now. No echo now. Sorry about that.
Couple comments on YouTube, I don't know, or coming in from YouTube, and then one on Facebook. Mike V says, follow the EFTMBB. I don't know what that is, but Ray, maybe you do.
EFTMBB.
Mortgage banker, but he says, when you see it go up in price, rates are heading lower. When it goes down, rates are going up.
MBS ETF, MBB. Is that what you're talking about?
EFT.
The iShares MBS just went down.
Yeah. So EFT is mortgage-backed securities. There you go. Yeah.
It is for the last 5 days. It's down. It's staying down.
So what he says is that goes down, rates go up, it goes up, rates go down. And then Adam Johnson says Superior, Wisconsin, Duluth, Minnesota, total 14 homes on the market serving a population of 140K. That's quick math, 0.001%.
Yeah, real quick math, nothing.
that's lower than zero. I mean, that's wow.
So funny.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, and part of what we're talking about, I guess we should cover this article too. This kind of goes with what we're just talking about, so I'm not going to do a new splash or anything. But mortgage rates drop into the 5% range for the first time since September. So this is a big reason why we're even talking about this, is because the drop in the mortgage rates was so drastic compared to what we have been dealing with.
Yeah.
So this was Friday. The average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage had fallen to 5.99%. Housing market hasn't seen a rate with 5 since a brief blip in September. Measured steps can continue as long as the economic and inflation data is there to support them. This means that rates can make progress down into the 5s, but are unlikely to stampede quickly into the 4s, said Matthew Graham, Chief Operating Officer of Mortgage News Daily. He said, I'm not saying that it won't happen. It just will take a bit more time. So, yeah, really interesting.
So Adam adds to it. He says he has 4 FHA buyers that are never going to get to own a home. Now, Adam, what is new construction like there? Is it just non-existent? Are they not building? Are they literally chilling because it's frozen there? Like, what's going on with that? Because that's
why won't they ever get to own a home?
Well, because he says there's 14 homes for 140,000
because they can't compete. They can't compete.
They can't compete. They're FHA, right? So if someone comes in with 20% down or all cash, I mean, they're not ever going to get looked at.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That sucks. Like, it's awesome. You get these really awesome, great first-time buyers. They go on FHA. You're looking forward to helping them. You're all excited about it, and you're like, okay, there's 14 homes for roughly 1,000 buyers in this market right now.
Yeah. So this article, the 6th article kind of primarily focuses on the mortgage refi, but I don't know. Hang on. I want to know if this is significant. Mortgage applications to purchase a home, not refi, purchase. There rose 3% for the week. Significant jump or no?
Wait, is that this week's article or is that a week ago when we weren't on?
This is Wednesday, February 8th. This is today.
Okay, this is today. So in my opinion, with rates dipping to 5.9 and then that immediate spike that you just showed going back up to 6.5.
But I guess they are looking at the number. Are they looking at the numbers for last week? Yeah, they are looking at for the numbers for last week.
Okay, so then yes, significant. 3% in my opinion isn't that big of a deal, but to see a spike is always a positive thing, but and I already know the number, but my interest would be more geared towards refinances.
Yeah. The refis jumped 18%.
That's big.
That's a huge jump. So total is 7.4% jump last week compared with the previous week. Still though, huge. So it's 37% lower. Mortgage applications to purchase a home are 37% lower than the same week a year ago. Is that significant?
So I would say it's kind of the 3% is greater than the 37%. Does that make sense?
The 3% is a greater difference than the 37% lower the same week a year ago.
Yes, because the 37% is like, that's not that bad. I mean, things were crazy a year ago and crazier the year before that. They have been for 2.5 years, 3 years. But the 3%, it going up with rates hovering around 6, I think that's a bigger deal than the 37%.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, it was a super stupid low interest rate last year. So everyone was making application because, they wanted to buy a house with that stupid low rate. Yeah. So, but with the rates now being in the 6s and it's still rising from week to week, that's a pretty good number.
It's a positive sign. It's definitely a positive sign.
They said purchase activity was put on hold last year. I would say late last year, due to the quick run up in rates and gradually coming back as rates and housing demand remained strong, driven by supportive demographics and the ongoing strength in the job market, said Joel Kahn, NBA's economist.
Kahn! Sorry, I missed it. We haven't done it for 2 weeks.
He goes on to say this increase is a sign of the recent upward trend in purchase activity remains skewed towards larger loan sizes, less first-time home buyer activity, which is what Adam was saying, and entry-level housing remains undersupplied, and buyers struggle with affordability in many markets, said Kahn.
Dusty adds from YouTube. She says about the FHA thing. She says, most of my FHA buyers are low price point. Many builders won't accept the loan type, and they are priced out of most inventory. I'm assuming by inventory, she means resale. And then Tim says, yes, any positive numbers on purchase applications is good. It is a great predictor of future transactions. So, and then you go, Adam Johnson from Facebook says median home price in Duluth is $260K, income $60K, and Superior is $190K, median income $54K. Average new home start is $450,000. So that's answering my question about new construction. 1,500 square foot, no new developments in my area, just one-off builders, no spec builds here. So, and if you have one-off builders, if they're only building, one-off custom homes or 10 custom homes, those are going to be I would imagine those are going to be at a premium. That's what they are around here because they're fully custom homes. And then Tim goes on to say rates peaked in November, applications tanked. Then we ran into the holidays, which usually makes people pause. Then we come January, consumers realized rates were down 1% and began applying. So it kind of an uptick from the January swing is kind of what he's saying.
Yeah.
That's crazy though about Adam. I mean, in his two markets to not have, there is new construction, but it's in the $450,000 range. And
that's kind of what's happening here too. Yeah. Like 400, 350, 450. That's kind of where all the new construction is sitting. We don't have any new construction under that.
That's just insane. And Dusty adds, she says, yes, resale. She meant inventory. Many of her FHA buyers can only afford a 1-bed condo now, but finding an FHA approved project is difficult. Yeah, same here. It's usually about 60, 70% are approved here. And some have been approved. I don't know if it's the same in Arizona, but it expires here after so many years. So you'll see something when you're looking at there's a specific website you can go to, and it'll say that it was approved, but it's not. And then you got to see, are you going through the process? Because if you're going through the process, the lender might move forward with it. And just a side note, with really crafty lenders, they can make that happen. They can get the approval through, but you're going to have them pay for it. I don't know how much it is, but I've had a lender that made an approval happen before. It just kind of pushed the process through, and then they covered the cost for it. And then we got it approved for my buyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years. You're right, Dusty. Yeah.
What's up, Shawnee and Justin? Both of them.
And that's what she's saying too. The spot approvals. Yeah.
I figured out a way to show the Clubhouse thing really big. So now I got all your faces on YouTube really big. So thanks,
it's
Justin
rad.
and Shawnee, for coming by. Tim.
So can I make I'm not trying to be a jerk here, Tim. Tim's profile picture looks like he's a wrestler in WWE. Like I'm serious. He really does. He looks serious. He looks a little bit like the Undertaker, much younger version, obviously.
It's like I mean, because it's like it's an AI. I think it's one of those AI generated things. So it kind of looks like surreal. It's that surreal look that you would expect from a WWE.
But he does look like he's a wrestler.
He's about to choke slam somebody.
Yeah, he's about to choke slam somebody out of the ring in a Royal Rumble.
He's gonna go choke slam an underwriter that's not getting stuff done for him.
Dusty says Steven Seagal vibes.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
Early.
Think about. All right, I'm gonna put this back up, and I want you in your brain to put a ponytail on Tim.
Tim. So Tim, redo
just
the
in your
AI
brain,
thing.
just think that his hair goes into a ponytail, and that's very Steven Seagal-ish.
Very, very good. So Tim, redo everything you did exactly the same with the AI, but add a ponytail and see if it does Steven Seagal.
It's just gonna show him a picture of Steven Seagal now. It's not even gonna.
It's not even gonna generate a pic. It's just gonna
here you go.
Yeah,
that's right. He's about to do an arm bar on a seller. that's not going to wait for his loan to close. Okay.
So
let's talk about home price
you don't have the
indexes.
Undertaker music, do you?
No. But I have Freddie Mac house price index declines. So 36 states have seen price declines seasonally adjusted. So this comes to us from calculatedrisk.substack.com.
Right.
So Calculated Risk is this article written by Bill McBride. And basically he's got some great graphs. I'm going to share
That's
this tab
why
so
I
that
like
we can look
this.
at Bill's graphs.
Because the graphs are good. I don't think we've ever pulled from him before. I've never seen this before, but the graphs are fantastic. And he has different, it's not just, the doom and gloom stuff. He's showing all graphs that are just showing data. And I dig it.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. So Freddie Mac recently reported that the National Home Price Index declined for the 7th consecutive month on a seasonally adjusted basis in December, putting the national FNHPI down 2.5% from its May 2022 peak. Wait. What's the number? I thought we were crashing and correcting and the weeping and gnashing of teeth was happening, but this says 2.5% down from the peak.
I know, but okay, so keep going because I'm going to send you something, Ray, because I have so many questions about this. Because
so he said it's not down; it's down 5%, not seasonally adjusted. On a year-over-year basis,
I read that. That's a weird stat.
On the year-over-year basis, it was up 4.1% in December.
Right.
Down 6% year-over-year in November. Year-over-year increase peaked at 19.3% July of 2021.
20% in a year.
Yeah. The second graph shows you month-over-month change.
Right.
So this is not where housing prices are, where that's kind of where the YouTubers are having a lot of fun with this, where they're saying like, oh, look how they were on this peak and then suddenly they're way down here. That's not how this graph works. It's the month-over-month change. It's the change that they're looking at. They're not looking at the actual number there. As you can see, the last 4 months? How long? The index has declined for 7 consecutive months. The last 7 consecutive months, you've seen the decline in the month. Here's a graph comparing the year-over-year change in the Case-Shiller FMHPI. So you can see it kind of runs about the same. We quote the Case-Shiller index a lot. So that's it. Good graphs. What were in December, 36 states and DC were below their 2022 peaks in December, seasonally adjusted. The largest seasonally adjusted decline from the recent peak were in Arizona, as negative 0.85%, Idaho 7.2% down, Nevada 6.8% down, Washington 6.7% down, California 6.3% down, Utah 5.4% down, and Colorado 5.2% down.
But I want to know, because when you talk about economists and data experts and analysts and all this stuff, are they using the right terms? They're not saying values. They're saying home prices. Okay.
Yeah. So I think what they're determining, I don't think when they're saying home prices when they say home prices, I don't know that they're looking at closed transactions. I want to say that they're looking at the current list prices.
I agree. But
I'm not totally sure. It's going to depend on it's not clear in a lot of these reports.
And
usually when they use the word values, they're talking about sold prices.
That's the closed number that when escrow or whatever kind of state you're in. That's the closed.
It's a bit semantics-y. We're kind of diving into semantics with it, which some reports may interchange the two words without telling us. So it's not really clear if we're looking at list prices without diving into the actual data, which
I've been reading through
obviously this week from the airports.
Since starting the show, I've been reading through a lot of data, but over the last month, I've been reading through an extra amount of data because these crash videos are getting out of hand. I'll promo it at the end, but I did a video about this stuff on 2 specific people, one channel, one financial quote unquote guru. but they definitely pick and choose what they want to do. And that kind of goes with Adam Johnson's comment. He's like, numbers from May, it's a weird compare because you just kind of go back. And I see this a ton where they're like, Q4 numbers were here. But back in May, dude, they were way higher. It's like, okay, but they're still higher year over year. And I've been pulling a lot of stuff from Fred, which is the Federal Reserve. Oh my God, I can't talk. Federal Reserve economic data. This is not full of whiskey, I promise.
Federal Reserve
economic data. But so now, and I follow this one. And when I shot my video, Q4 numbers had not come out yet. It was, I think, 468,900 or something like that at the end of Q3. Median. Now this is median. And this is median sales price of houses sold for the United States. Q4 numbers, it was at 467,700. And this was updated January 26th and not seasonally adjusted. And what I like about this here, I think I can, here, let me send this to you, Ray, so you can bring it up. Or I can just share my screen. What do you want?
You share your screen, it's fine. You'll drive
Let's go here, open it up, and then I need to have to do this.
See, it's not easy. You don't make it look so easy.
I know. Ray makes it look really easy. So there we go. You should be able to pull that.
There you are.
Yep. So what I like about this, I'll scroll down quick. There's no story. There's nothing behind this.
It's just data.
It's just data. And that's what I like about this. There's no rigmarole behind it. There's no conjecture. There's nothing behind this. It's just, here's what the numbers were. And if you look right there, so Q3 is that right there. Can you see my cursor?
No, just read the number.
So Q3 2022 was 468 and Q4 2022 is 467,700. So
it's not much of a difference.
It's statistically flat. So that's why now this seems like a legit site to go get things from. And I pulled numbers from this because it's just data. I don't know who's behind the site. I don't know who funds it. I don't know anything about that. Right. So it should be, without putting the tinfoil hat on, it should just be numbers, and here they are. And
economic research for the Federal Reserve Bank in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
that's not a government thing. It's a Fed thing. It's the Fed's not the government. Is the Fed the government? Oh man, we're going to get into privatizing okay.
Yeah. Private. But it gives them, but what I like about it is it's just the numbers. And if you ever want anything to prove, just go find some numbers. Just go find some numbers, because you'll see it kind of as Adam mentioned, a lot of people pull Phoenix specific numbers, Reno specific numbers, Austin, Texas specific numbers, because it fits their narrative. But nationally, we're doing just fine.
Yeah. Well, we think we're doing just fine. But this commentator on Fox News, who's supposedly a housing expert, says that there's been some real damage to housing. U.S. housing market sees meaningful damage that is not normal, CEO of investment firm warns. In 2023, it's going to be slow, and I think we're going to have a tough row to hoe. I think that coming in the next year, you're really going to see damage that's going on. This is Pulte Capital CEO Bill Pulte explained. These are quotes from the transcript, so it's a little bit difficult to read. But he said, we need to make sure that these management teams are completely focused on executing right now, because you get 40% reduction in orders, and the big builders, they need to set up for their game right now. It doesn't make any sense what he's saying. But with the weird part is he said you get a 40% reduction in orders. Who's got a 40% reduction in construction orders right now? No one.
Right.
He again said it's going to be a tough road to sow. So at first he said tough row to hoe.
Now
it's a tough row to sow as a continuation of the farming analogy. And I think you heard that on the earnings call. I think you're going to see coming into even next year, frankly, because these orders are down. PulteGroup's orders, for example, are down 40% year over year. I mean, it's meaningful.
For them, it's meaningful.
Yeah.
But
I just, so Bill Pulte, he is a CEO of Pulte Capital. So he may be talking about orders to buy those stocks, but the way he proposes this whole thing is that the builders are all going to crash. So effectively, you know, he showed the rates were 6% plus, maybe 7% in some cases. They're able to get these rates down to 4%, which builders are offering terms with incentives.
Cookies.
Yeah. I think he's talking about the temporary, the buybacks and stuff like that to buy down those rates. He's basically saying that needs to happen for the builders to keep their orders up.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to point out in that one?
There is a comment on YouTube. I don't know if you can see it, from Olivier. He says, so if lower end products sell more now and more expensive products sell less, doesn't that make average and median's price go down?
Yes, you should see the median home prices go down.
Right. If there's more lower end products, if there's less demand for the higher end products, which is the luxury markets.
Yeah, that would be normal for that to happen. Jason Oppenheim. Do you know Jason?
I've heard his name, but I know him from...
He was on a show, Selling Sunset.
Yeah, selling.
I've never seen the show, to be honest.
Never. Not once. Me either.
Really? You haven't either?
No.
Isn't that like in your neck of the woods?
I mean, it's LA, but I can't stand those people.
So I've never seen the show. But I thought his points were pretty salient on what he had to say to Yahoo Finance. So the real estate industry could soon be upended, said star broker Jason Oppenheim. He said, to be specific about real estate agents, we've got federal regulators and a couple of lawsuits coming down the pipeline that the worst case could be an Armageddon for real estate agents. You might see regulators uncouple the commission structure, which the seller is essentially paying the buyer's agent's commissions. So we've talked about this on the show before, and I feel like he echoes what we're talking about.
Yeah.
They go into the article goes into the lawsuits that we've been talking about, where these sellers are trying to sue, saying that their home, that they shouldn't have had to pay the buyer's agent's commission. Maybe it was the buyers that are trying to sue, saying that the home was artificially inflated. So they're getting together these class action lawsuits.
Wasn't there suits from both sides of that argument?
Yeah, and they're trying to make them class actions. I think one has been accepted as a class action. I'm not sure if the others have or have not yet. I don't know. I can't remember the exact state of them. But he said you could see hundreds of thousands of agents leaving the profession and major brokers going out of business. We're on the precipice of an Armageddon that nobody talks about. So we're talking about it.
So we're talking about it because we're the ones that talk about things.
Is this really an Armageddon if they were to decouple the commission structure?
I think it would be, and it would be an Armageddon, but not for agents. It would be an Armageddon for sellers.
Why?
Because now, also buyers. I think both sides, because you've said it 1,000 times on the show. Every time we talk about this, especially like with Adam's comment and talking about FHA and a higher interest rate, and you can barely afford your payment, you're going to lean towards renting. Now, all of a sudden, you got to come up with another if you're on a multi-million-dollar property, you're going to have to come up with 30 grand,
Mm-hmm.
As if you're the buyer. And then if you're the seller, now my price is going to have to adjust down because that buyer is pulling out of his own funds, out of his own pocket.
Well, wouldn't that just mean that the buyer agent goes out of business because the buyer would rather just buy the house without the agent?
You might think that. I've said that for a long time. But good buyers agents will find their own foothold, because going in without a representation against a brokerage and against all their lawyers, and they're protected and you're not. I think enough people know, because let's go back to when iBuying started, and the Zillow one tap, just tap a button and you can do things on your own. You can sell your house. Did that explode? Did that take our jobs? Did that take over real estate? No, it didn't, because people like the handshake. They like the personalized touch, and they like being represented. They like feeling taken care of, which only top end or more thorough real estate agents could do. So I think they will thrive, but the others might fall off. So I don't think he's wrong. I just think, I don't know if the Armageddon is for agents, right?
I think it's going to be for a lot of agents that survive off of people feeling that they have to have one and that they're not going to save any money if they don't. I think there's going to be a lot of people that start to go with the dual agency situation, which they say, well, I just want you to represent me too. You have the listing. Why don't you represent me too?
And that's going to open up a whole new can.
Correct.
A whole new can. I mean, we hear about it every now and then, dual agencies, and so when I do dual agents, you can't negotiate. I can't tell you, I think the seller will go down a little bit, or I think the buyer will come up $5,000 to make this work. You can't say any of that. You cannot. It's because then I'm not having agency or fiduciary responsibility for both of my clients. It's too tough. It's just too tough. I don't recommend it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some that can do dual agency well, but for the most part, your average agent won't be able to. So I think the only case I think it's Armageddon is for the agents that are not professional in doing what they do. I do think it could hurt sellers because they will have to adjust their prices down now that buyers are basically increasing their closing costs by, 2 or 3%.
2 or 3%. Yeah. I think we would see a dip. We would definitely see a dip in buyer agent commissions. People don't want to pay a full 3%, which I don't see a full 3% really anymore anyway. But I think there would be a big push to go down to 1%, 1.5%.
Yeah, I could see that and I think a lot of agents would take it, just like a lot of agents now advertising, we'll list your price for 1.5% or list your house for 1.5%. And all they're doing is just sticking it on the MLS and putting a sign in the yard. They're not doing a full marketing suite.
They're doing the 3 Ps, which I learned from Keller Williams.
Yes, the 3 Ps.
They put it in the MLS, they put a sign in the yard, and then they pray someone else will sell it. That's what we were told to believe. And then all you have to do is say these words here, which every other Keller Williams agent is saying.
Yeah.
And then you're Ray and you go, every Keller Williams agent is saying the same thing.
I mean, that's what
I think they just had a bold event because there's a lot of expired calls happening right now. So I'm going to say the opposite.
$40 million lawsuit and calling people on the Anyway,
I just had a conversation about that yesterday. There's a couple of comments on YouTube from Dusty. She says, I don't know, it'd be a shock, especially to buyers. My broker harps on this, and that's a boomer term. Harps on this and educating on our value and proving our worth as a buyer's agent. Yep. She goes on to say, but I think buyers will be left holding the bag, and it will hurt because Americans are strapped for cash. It's all about, I had something to say, but I'm going to squash it. It's all about if lenders will cover it. Most do if worded properly. And then she says, I've done it. I think she means dual agency. I don't like it. I like negotiating. Can't really do my best when my hands are tied, which I've done dual agency as well. I don't prefer it. I'd rather have another agent represent them and just have it be fair to both sides. And good luck negotiating against me, by the way.
As ChatGPT says, in conclusion, I say that a lot. If you're ever reading an article and you see in conclusion, you might think, oh, that's probably written by ChatGPT. Hey. In conclusion, I thought it was good. I liked him.
Yeah.
Because I've never watched the show before, like I said, but I thought his points were right on. Like he was exactly right. And he was well-spoken on the interview, and he wasn't like sensational or anything. Like the show is makes people think.
All the cat fights and the dumb, you know, just the dumbness, the overall dumbness.
Yeah.
And I thought the same thing when I read through it. I'm like, dude, I kind of agree with this dude. And he sounds, he knows what he's talking about.
It actually makes me want to go watch the show now for the first time.
That's why he did it.
Yeah, that's why he did it. But he actually knew what he was talking. I liked it. He was well informed about the whole thing. Okay, so speaking of being well informed about the whole thing, we covered this. Man, how long ago was this when we covered it? Maybe I feel like it's a year ago. Maybe it hasn't been a year ago. We'll see. But we covered this lawsuit between some black plaintiffs and an appraiser citing discrimination. So let's go through this and see if that's really what it was or not. We'll take some opinions and feedback. All right. So
and just, I don't know how long he's been here, but Scap is now here.
Scap is here. He timed it out right. He said, here's the appraiser discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I want to set up. I want to set up the initial scenario that we all heard. And the initial scenario was there's a couple who are going for a refi. They get it appraised. It appraises like $540,000. They are lower than that, actually $400,000. They were hoping for a 500 and something. It appraises for 400. The first one was low. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they did was they called it whitewashing the home, which is not an actual, it's not how the term whitewash is used in real estate. But anyway, they basically took everything,
family portraits,
African-American, everything out.
Right.
And they put a white neighbor in the house for the next appraiser to come over. And then it appraised at like 700,000.
Like,
okay. So just
insane amount more.
Just given this information, is this racist or not? I think
it would seem fishy.
We would all look at this and say, yeah, that something's up there.
Something's up.
Something's up. Enough is up where this should definitely be investigated. So
absolutely.
So Scap, if this was you, it wasn't Scap, but it's enough for us to look at it and say, okay, this is a problem. Well, the appraiser is countersuing because his name has been dragged through the mud for, let's see, almost, how long ago was this? Filed in August 2022.
Well, Scap will know. He's been following this. He's our man on the inside. He's our appraiser on the inside.
So anyway, the guy's name has been dragged through the mud. It has hurt his business, and so he's countersuing for defamation. So here's a little bit additional info.
Well, wait. So before you do, it seems like, and I don't know because I kind of know this, but I haven't fully read this article. But it seemed like they got an appraisal and went, dude, that's horrible. That's not, every other house around here is 500, 600, 700 grand. And then a week later, they did the whitewashing thing.
That's what it seems like.
And then
correct.
And then got 700 grand. It seems that way, right? That's how it.
And that's the way everything that reported on this earlier. That's the way it was all presented.
Okay, so that's my mindset on this, and I was like, something's up. But okay, sorry. Now go on.
So background: Nathan Connolly, Shawnee Mott are both professors at Johns Hopkins University. Mott's an instructor of African American Studies. Connolly is a history professor who focuses on racism, capitalism, and politics. So now I'm like, these are very educated people. This is interesting. Yeah. Connolly and Mott purchased a home in Baltimore, Maryland, for $450,000 in 2017. In mid 2021, they contacted Loan Depot, which they've been in the news.
Wait.
2017, they contacted Loan Depot to refinance the home at a 2.25% interest rate.
2021.
Wait. Yeah, that property appraised now at $550,000, which the loan officer believed was a conservative estimate.
Okay.
On the condition that their property appraised at $550,000.
Okay.
Appraiser Shane Lanham was hired by Loan Depot and appraised the home for $472,000.
In 2021.
So total difference is $75,000 off. Okay. Here's a key phrase. 7 months later, Connolly and Mott approached a different lender, different appraiser, appraised the home $750,000 after they whitewashed the home. So 7 months later, what happened? in 2021 to 2022 in 7 months. Like huge increases in property, right?
Yeah.
But this is the interesting part. So for consumers that are watching this, whenever we have a property that doesn't appraise, we ask for the appraisal and we start to fight SCAP or whoever the appraiser is about the comps they chose and why they chose them.
It happens every time on a low appraisal.
That is super normal. Now I have had a home that's worth around 270. One day we had it appraised at 250. We got a different lender, different appraiser. It appraised at 280. That's a $30,000 difference in appraisal. Huge. I mean, it's like 10% of the value of the home. Huge difference.
Yeah.
So what was the difference? Well, we just got a different appraiser. But whenever an appraiser misses a number, we look at the comps and then we try to ask them, why are you using this comp? Why are you using that comp? What did you know about this comp? Did you know that was a situation that was a probate situation? Did you know that was a foreclosure? There's sometimes the appraisers miss something, but more often than not, they just stick with their number. Well, right. Whenever they start talking about the comps that the appraiser used, it feels completely like a normal discussion, like a completely regular discussion. And it really calls into question the $750,000 valuation. Now, here's another key piece of information.
Right.
The $750,000 appraisal has never actually materialized on paper.
What?
They say they have it.
Who's they? The owner, the homeowners say they have it?
The plaintiffs, the homeowners say they have it.
Oh.
The appraiser is like, okay, well, let me see it. Let me see how he appraised it.
I would love to be wrong here. Let me
which
see
that's
it.
Exactly what anyone would do. Like, hey, let me see this. What did he do that I didn't do?
Right.
The appraiser that got the low valuation argued that their house was by a main drag. He argued that a neighboring property sold for $450,000 or something like that. Just recently sold at that price.
Okay.
He does a pretty good job of arguing. It sold for $460,000 shortly after the effective date. On the analysis of comparables, a fair portion of Lamb's counterclaim against Colony and Mott centers on discussing the comparables used in his appraisal report, which that's like what we talk about all the time with appraisers.
So now, yes, exactly. So now this also, I mean, that's a massive difference to $300,000, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, and if you've ever watched the show, or if you know Ray or I, we're very analytical. So when someone calls out racism, we go, okay,
let's look at it.
And
it seemed like it.
It seemed like it. Now, and this is for real estate. This isn't our personal lives. And remember, we did 2 years ago, we did, fundraisers, we did shirts and everything for causes, and we've done a whole bunch of that stuff. But we're also very analytical and we want to know what's behind it. And this article is now showing that. But if it would take this man to walk in and go, black people, it's going to be low. Like, it would literally take that kind of thought process to do this. And I would also imagine he would have a history of this. After his name was put out there and dragged through the sledge, other people would go, dude,
he did that on me too.
On my property.
Yeah, you would think that stuff
he did
would
that
come
to
out.
me too. Now that we know of, there's none of these,
there's no other claims.
There's no other claims. And also, how would he still be in business if he were forget the race card, forget that. How would he be still in business? Or how would AMC's appraiser management companies, how would he still be in business if he were consistently, 90-80% off, undervaluing properties?
Yeah.
So just had to point it out.
Yeah. And so after you peel away the issue, is this racist or not, and just look at the actual appraisal information
that may not exist.
The first appraisal information, it seems like a totally legit disagreement between somebody that got a low valuation and somebody that thought they were getting a higher valuation.
Which is not uncommon.
The thing that kind of makes it sensational is a $750,000 valuation that, if real, is interesting, but it's not been produced. And that in itself is very interesting. So I don't know that the guy makes a comment. I don't know if it was him or his attorneys, that it seems like a weird experiment. And you have two university professors that are basically on that subject matter all the time. And it does feel like a weird experiment that they said, you know what we'll do? Yeah. We'll try this. So not a fair comparison. Potomat's initial claim was that they whitewashed their home prior to the second appraiser visiting the property, which their suit explains is removing as many indica as possible. And let's see. However, Latham posits he continued to compare his appraisal with the second appraisal, which was performed 7 months later, and relied on the home sales that had not even occurred at the time of his appraisal, which is unfair. So basically he's saying that you're giving me this property and you're wanting me to appraise it, but supposedly a $750,000 appraisal came back 6 months later, and now you want me to compare my appraisal, but these future sales had not even happened yet.
Yeah, he had no data. He couldn't predict future data 6 months ahead.
Correct.
And also,
we all know that the market did go up. I mean, the market went up in that time frame drastically. In some cases, 30 to 50%.
And where is this? Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So could you have gone from 500 to 750 in some places? But I think you could. He's probably got a good argument against the other one, against the other appraisal.
We live in this weird world where I can't say anything today. Weird world where, someone's accused of something and then the press takes it and just drag people through the mud, and you're guilty until proven innocent, right?
So,
and that's what I've been calling it forever. Now it's cancel culture, but it's
well. And I think when we covered this, because the information that we had was so limited, because it was basically only the plaintiff's statement. I think we even said, yeah, this is a problem. That kind of stuff has to stop. Which is why we're kind of going into detail now and saying like, hey, this is a real story. So,
but we always say the same thing, which is if true. There's a lot of if in our. When it's statements like this and stories like this, we always say if true.
So Scap, do you have any additional comments on this? I know you were the one that shared this with us originally.
Oh my God, you guys are finally getting to me. I appreciate it.
We're just trying to torture you.
Waiting. I've been sitting here waiting. Yeah. So the article covers a lot of it. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns as well. I mean, obviously The second appraisal does exist because they actually showed in the lawsuit itself that I read from beginning to end that the comps that the second appraiser used, which were all over the place, where the first appraiser used comps that were more centralized to this actual home. One of the things that wasn't mentioned in this story is that appraiser A used that house next door as a comparable, or it sold afterwards, but he did use another comp on the same street, where this other appraiser obviously didn't use any comps on this main thoroughfare that could have external factors to possibly depreciate the value of the property being on this main thoroughfare. Well,
right.
The appraiser A made an adjustment, I think, of like 10%, and then the other appraiser who didn't use any comparables on a main thoroughfare made a minus, I think it was like 2% adjustment for being on the main thoroughfare. So again, who's right, who's wrong, we don't know until it's actually analyzed and looked at. But, as you said, this second appraisal, which does exist, nobody wants to give up for some reason. And they make the claim that they whitewashed the home. Well, how do we know? There's no photos of this second appraisal showing that they did anything of this. They're not wanting to actually give this appraisal up. So all you're hearing is the one side of it. And whether maybe this appraiser didn't do his job correctly, the first appraiser, maybe he did. But here's where the issues start to get a little more in depth that we don't know about. So appraiser A was hired by Loan Depot to do this appraisal. Well, how was appraiser B hired? Was he hired by an AMC through another bank or through another lender? How did that AMC pick this guy? Was he the cheapest and fastest to go out there and do this? Was there anything being said in between the first appraisal and the second one, between lenders and an appraiser or an AMC saying, hey, we had a problem here. We need somebody to get out there to get the value up. I mean, the lender already had a predetermined notion of $550,000 of what the home should be worth, which Okay, that's great based upon your preliminary lender data.
Right.
However, the appraiser went out and did his job and came in less, and put $75,000 less than what the lender thought, and God knows what they're using for their comparable analysis to determine what that value should be at.
Zillow.
So there's a lot of unknowns that are going through this. However, I'm more concerned about the fact that going through a lawsuit myself, where I had to produce all sorts of documents, that they are refusing to actually supply this appraisal, which makes you start to wonder what in the hell is going on here and what are they hiding that is not true.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a key factor.
Well, until you actually furnish that appraisal. But again, even by furnishing that appraisal that was done 7 months later, again, you're now dealing with a different subset of comps in the area. You're dealing with a different market conditions, different market factors at that time. So that appraisal cannot be compared to the first appraisal. And if values went up that much in that area over that time, oh, geez. I mean, I just wonder where the second appraiser actually was able to determine his comps and what comps he, even though they put it out there on a map saying he used these comps, if you look at the maps through the original lawsuit, they're spread out all over the place, almost like he was picking and choosing, whatever he thought would make a value or something, as opposed value. To actually, and it always goes, and just for context purposes, there's a lot more of these cases out there that haven't made the national news like this. I do follow all of them. And it's always the same story. Oh, I got an appraisal. It came in low, and it had to be because of this or this or this, or it's because of race. So let's go out and we'll get another one. And most of them are occurring months after, weeks after, but it's always the same story. The second appraisal always comes in higher. None of them are coming in lower than the original appraisal. So
why do you think that is, Scott?
Honestly, I don't know. But if I was to speculate, I believe that there's shenanigans behind the scenes, kind of like, prior to the crash with, lenders forcing appraisers to do things. I think there could be some shenanigans going on behind the scenes between lenders not wanting to be sued possibly, or not wanting to do things, or AMCs, whatever. I just think there's a lot of things that are being left out of all of this that everybody should be aware of. And we need to have it brought to the spotlight on all of these cases. But I'll be the first to tell you, if there's any appraiser out there that's actually doing this on purpose in any area due to race, well, then they need to get the goddamn hell out of my profession and be out of it so fast before I find you and kick you out of the profession. But I don't really think that that's what appraisers are doing. I honestly, when it all comes down to it, y'all have to understand the system that appraisers work in now with AMCs, and you may not be getting the most experienced or the most professional appraiser to come do your appraisal for your home, because the AMCs are choosing to charge you, the borrower, $800 for the appraisal and then go bid it out to the lowest bidding appraiser, which it could be a guy that just got his license. It could be a guy coming from 20 miles away. It could be anybody coming out there to do this, while you still have the expert appraisers in your area not getting these orders because their fees are too high, or because they're not on these appraisal panels to accept those orders. So there's a lot that needs to be known and needs to be researched on how these appraisers were chosen. What were they paid? What was their timeline? Who forced them to do this, that, and everything? That's what really needs to start being answered throughout all of these cases, and not just assume that because you got a low appraisal, it's based upon your race or anything. You have the reconsideration of values you can do. You have ways to go out there and challenge an appraisal, or get, see what the differences are. But I don't think a lot of people know how to do that, and are not given the opportunity. But again, there's just so much being left out, and it's leaving a black eye on a profession that is bound by very strict, by the way, stricter regulations than what you have as real estate agents. We are bound by such strict regulations, state and federally. I just can't see an appraiser going out there and just saying, you know what, I don't like these people here, so I'm going to appraise it low. It's the easiest way to lose your license.
Yeah.
Gab, I have to say,
lose your livelihood.
We had a whole conversation just because unfortunately somebody walked into my office, but I don't think that would be it at all, though. I think it would be just maybe unconscious bias. I think it's not that think I don't like this person. maybe you're thinking, okay, look at the neighborhood, look who's living here. Maybe the values are low. So if anything, that's what I think it would be, not an overt, I'm going to appraise it low. So
well, I mean, you can look at those factors too, but you got to remember the data is the data, and that's what appraisers do. Appraisers analyze the data and analyze.
You want though. That's the thing. So it's
well, I mean, if I'm looking in an area, if I'm doing an appraisal on a property in an area or a neighborhood, you know, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all the sales in that immediate neighborhood and that immediate area. And if that's what the data is telling me, and I've got comparables within that immediate area, there's no need for me to go, you know, a mile away or 2 miles away to look for comps if I've got enough actual statistical and actual factual data within that actual neighborhood. That neighborhood is telling the story. That neighborhood's telling the story.
Actually, Shani, I think
there's a possibility other people might think differently. That's the possibility.
Oh, sure. No, I agree with you. I'm not gonna disagree with you. I think that can definitely happen.
I think real estate agents are more apt to have that unconscious bias, Shani, than appraisers, because appraisers really are supposed to stick to the numbers, stick to the data.
Right. But we want the number to happen. We want it to be what we said it would be.
As real estate agents, you know, we can massage the data to show what we want, because I do it all the time in negotiations. You know, I pull a CMA, and it could be the same CMA that the agent used to list the property. And I can use that same CMA to show them how it should not be listed that high. It should be listed at what my client's offering, but I'm not using an appraiser's standard for my data. I am using an interpretation of the data, which is very different from what the appraisal. So I agree with you, Shani. I think there could be some unconscious bias, but I would say it's probably more on the real estate agent side than it is on the appraiser side, given their rules and regs. But it's an interesting story. You know, the reason why we're covering it is because we covered it originally and we're like, oh, this guy's clearly racist. But now that we have additional information, it doesn't look like that's the case. And we'll kind of continue to watch it and see how it unfolds and what happens. You know, in the appraiser community, there's a lot of comments on it. And it's like, hey, if this guy loses this is big trouble for all appraisers. So they're seeing it as more of a mark on the issue for the whole industry.
Especially if he has a history, this specific appraiser has a history of legit appraisals. Maybe some are low, but they're not wildly swinging, you know, by 300 grand, you know. And I also wanted to add too, here in LA, I'm outside of LA, but I do work LA, Los Angeles, not Lower Arkansas. There's cities, specific little chunks, like how Scap was saying, even if you search in that neighborhood, you're going to see a $600,000 house, and then you're going to see a $1.2 million house. They're next door to each other.
Yeah, we have that.
Now, you know, and they're next door to each other, and it's just, one is an original 1920s built home that hasn't really been upgraded. The other one is a full-on flip that everything has been done to it, everything inside and out. Now it's a modern marvel, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I don't know this market, and I don't want to, honestly, don't want to take, I don't want to take either side here, really, you know, but to have an appraiser's back, he's going to pull, because you could look down the street and go, dude, that house sold for $2 million. Okay, but your house is dilapidated, and you know, and it's worth the 500 or 600 range, and though your house is the one that the flipper is going to buy to turn into the $2 million house. Now, again, I'm not taking a side here. I know neighborhoods exist like that. There's a neighborhood out here, city I work, which is, it's street by street how different it goes. Some streets are nicer than others.
That definitely makes sense. I mean,
you know, and you have to take that into account. You have to, and you know, but yeah. Anyway.
Do you want to hit the YouTube comments real quick, and then we got to move on to the other story?
It's a lot of most of it is on it's a lot.
I wish I could
just
see
a lot. But yeah, Adam Johnson says MLS data sucks here too. I just saw 1,800 square foot home advertised on the MLS at 2,915 square feet.
Yeah.
Jack Attridge says, curious if there's any extreme changes in the property neighborhood. Also, what used to be crazy high outlier turned into several and set trends, right? That's a good point. Even the perception of impropriety similar to agency deserves a full investigation. Totally agree.
Yeah.
And then Adam Johnson says, you also can't compare market sale appraisals to a refile appraisal because
the refi appraisals are all kind of generous.
Yeah, you're looking to get a number, right? And then
while we're on the topic of what they did, one of the first things I tell my clients to do to get their home ready for sale, because it generally makes it look better against the other homes on the market, is to declutter, depersonalize, pack, and clear all the surfaces. So if they took down all the personal effects and items, that is one way to improve the perceived value of your home. But if they took them down and then replaced them with like other items, that would be different. So I just wonder how this experiment would have played out. Anyway.
And I'd like to see pictures of the before after. Here's when it appraised at 450, it was this.
All right, last comment.
Let me add this really quick, because of what you just said there about perception and doing things of that nature. And I'm just speaking for myself here. I don't give a crap what your house has in it and how it's decorated or what it is, because I'm looking at the actual house and the land. Because when I'm looking at comps, I'm looking at features like your kitchen, anything that stays with the house I'm looking at. So I'm looking at your kitchen that has granite countertops and nice, cabinets, brand new cabinets or whatever, hardwood floors. And I'm comparing that to other homes out there to make sure that they have the similar type of quality materials and quality finishes when I'm comparing them. But I don't care how you decorate your house or what you have in it at all. It's what stays with the house and the land and the location that it's in, the condition of it, and then other features such as basements, unfinished basements, to finished basements, 3-car garage. Those are the things. Those are the factual things I'm looking at. Everything else out there, I can give 2 craps less to what you have in your house or how you decorate. It does not matter to me whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to. But I've also heard an inspector. It's not supposed to matter to an inspector how nice the house is either. But I always tell my clients our goal is to make the inspector, when they're with the buyer in the house, say, "Wow, this is a nice house." Because when an inspector says it, that means something different. Inspectors just commenting on how nice it looks, but the buyers hear it differently. So there's a lot of little mind games that we try to play with you appraisers and inspectors, and it works.
Yeah, Scap, don't read comments on the video right now. Just don't.
This is not the droid you were looking for. Okay, so speaking of that, could this be what we've been waiting for 3 years? Has the time arrived for the national MLS?
Could it be?
Could it be broken by BAM, Broke Agent Media, the national data share agreement among Bright MLS, CRMLS, and BEACHESMLS? So 2 weeks after the announcement of Nestfully, 3 prominent MLSs announced a national data sharing agreement. Combined, Bright MLS, CRMLS, and BEACHESMLS serve 50 million consumers. New data share agreement is set to launch later in 2023 and will provide access to listing data in all 3 platforms for subscribers. This is interesting. The data share agreement is the next step.
3 years of predicting, be finally right.
Is this the next step in the national MLS that we've all been hoping for?
Well, remember, we covered it 2 weeks ago before we took the break, that there was a step towards this. This is the next step. Now, this is bigger ones, all connecting.
This is a big old step.
Yeah, because California is pretty connected. There's still some outliers. There's still some smaller mountain based MLSs that want to keep their own. But for the most part, California's connected.
Uh-oh, Dan.
Oh.
Breaking news for This Week in Real Estate, hosted by the Bearded Men of Real Estate. The National Housing Survey, Unaffordability, continues to weigh heavily on consumer perceptions of housing market. Elevated mortgage rates and home prices are dampening consumer opinion of home purchase conditions. The Fannie Mae Home Purchase Sentiment Index, the HPSI, increased for the third consecutive month in January, but still remains well below its pre-pandemic highs. Overall, the HPSI rose 0.6 points to 61.6. with 3 of the index's components increasing month over month, including those associated with home selling conditions, home price outlook, and household income. Only 17 respondents believe that it's a good time to buy.
But when you read the numbers, it went up.
What?
Go back. When you read the numbers, everything's doom and gloom. We're all going to die.
Rose
but when you read the numbers,
0.6.
That's rose. Rose means what? Rise. Went up, right?
Yeah, but but 17% of consumers say now is a good time to buy. That's the all-time low.
But the overall numbers went up.
So this one just released. I'm literally going through these live. It's got a cool chart on here. You can find this at fanniemay.com. On the right rail of this webpage, you'll find a news release. Okay, that's
and also remember, they surveyed 2,000 people to represent hundreds of thousands of buyers in the United States.
Sample size.
I always find that interesting. Sometimes it's 1,000, sometimes 2. And then they're
this is from. Here's a quote from Doug Duncan, Fannie Mae Senior Vice President and Chief Economist. January's HPSI results showed that consumer sentiment toward housing markets remains subdued by historical standards. For consumers, the same affordability issues are persisting as they continue to indicate high home prices and high mortgage rates make it a bad time to buy a home. The latest survey data also indicated that the majority of consumers expect home prices to decrease or remain flat over the next year, which may incentivize potential home buyers to delay their purchasing decision. Although, quote, good time to sell sentiment ticked upward this month, it's still much lower than it was a year ago. Purchase affordability remains seriously constrained. Mortgage demand has reduced. Until we see improvements in affordability via lower home prices and mortgage rates, we expect home sales to remain muted in the coming months. Muted home sales.
So flat. Right, exactly. And no,
I've muted myself.
Ray is not actually freezing out. No, we're not freezing. It's just you. You're literally freezing outside. And dude, do you know the coldest place on Earth right now is like 108 degrees below zero?
That's pretty cold.
That's cold, bro.
It's almost as cold as a Fed chairman's heart. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this week. Dan, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
There you go. D-Lettergrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS. That's everywhere. I usually say go follow me on Instagram, but go to YouTube.
What is YouTube?
It's YouTube. Just D-Lettergrocks. Go find it. I can share it to you. But if you follow me on Instagram, I can share it with you as well. I put together a little video. It's about 17 minutes long. It's about a couple different just sensationalistic people out there that make a lot of money off of being essentially, in my opinion, they're scammers. They're scamming their followers. They're scamming their viewers. I made a video about that and pretty much debunked everything they have to say.
Nice.
So go check that out, please. I'm getting close to viral. I'm at 73 views right now. I would like to push that over 100 if I could. So go check that out. D-Lettergrocks. And then I do have a secret YouTube channel that I'm uploading to, but I'm not going to tell you about that. You just have to figure it out.
Yep.
But yeah, D-Lettergrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS. Ray, where can they find
Ray Zorback, RAYZORBACK. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for the discussion, Shawnee, Scap, you guys on Clubhouse and in the comments. Sorry I couldn't see the comments this week. It's kind of a crap show. It'll be better next week because I'll have more time. We'll have more time to prepare. But I appreciate you guys' patience with us. Thanks for watching. Share the show, subscribe, take a look at some of our older episodes as they're on the screen there too. So we'll see you guys next week.